So I'm going to get sued, I'm never going to be able to do it, so I need exemption. So they, people come around and say, okay, unless the count votes, do we have enough for an exemption? And they came to me and I said, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I said, we did it last time, we were going to work on state reform, there's been nothing, I get it now. When we want to shame on me, when we try to shame on you, whatever. I said, no, I'm not going to do it because if we're serious, we're not just going to hand out concessions to wealthy people that want to go to football games. It should be a level playing field for everybody that's building everything. Across the board, we need to rework this law. So I said, I'm not voting for it. So they went forward, they got the votes and passed it. Then fast forward a little bit after that. And people did start to build momentum that we have to reform this law. So this is about a year ago this month. They started getting together a momentum to reform people. And so a lot of it came from Democrats in Silicon Valley. A lot of companies up there were high-tech economies doing very well. They were trying to expand manufacturing of high-tech. And they're running the same company. They couldn't expand their buildings. They're building buildings because they were able to do them cheap well. And they're saying things were so quick in high-tech, we can't wait this problem, go to another state. And companies were going to other states, Oregon, Washington, expanding there, not to California. And there was two reasons. One was just because lawsuits, people stopping them from building their new factories. Another one was a tax policy. It's a little convoluted, but a tax policy that, oddly enough, helps out-of-state companies over in-state companies in their tax policies. Because you can configure corporate tax in a couple different ways. One is simply, what are your sales? How much do you sell here in California? We're going to tax you, our corporate rate of 8.4%, we're going to tax you down on the amount of sales you have. Another way is say, well, it's a little bit of sales, but then also we'll tax you on how much property and how many employees that you have in California. So it'll be kind of a combination of that. So what happens is companies that are outside of California that sell, say, cigarettes or software, where they have very little property in California, there are very few employees, they say, hey, we'll take that computation where it's that mix of property and employees and so on, and then we'll take that corporate tax. Now, it actually would be lower than those companies that are in California that had a lot of property, a lot of employees. They would give you a tax, a bigger tax. And so people say, well, we got to keep it. We're discouraging. So they're saying we're discouraging companies from expanding here in California. Oh, here they are here. So anyway, they said, we have to change that, what's called the sales factor, and see one. So they're starting, let's do a deal here and see if we can get some legislation moving. So they approached me and they said, Brian, we know you're concerned about people. We think we got a deal. We need your vote. Here's the trick. They get the bill out of the assembly. The speaker of the assembly says the vehicle he's going to move is a tax. And it's a tax on these outside companies, or they already have that better corporate rate that combines property with employees and so on. Like say cigarette companies and stuff like that. They said, that's actually, we're going to close down that option and make them choose only what's called sales. So that's a tax, about $1 billion on companies outside the state of California. And all the Republican members said, no, we don't vote for taxes. We just don't care what it is. We do not vote for increased taxes. And I looked at the issue, and I understood what they were saying. I said, you know what? That kind of makes sense. I can understand the complaints of in-state companies against out-of-state companies. And also, if we can get frequent from other regulatory reform by doing that, I finally told the speaker, I said, I'll vote for your bill. If we're going to move that out of the assembly, we have no assembly, but the Senate, I will vote for that. And so I said, you have my word, I'll vote for it, and we can't guarantee what happens, but you could get my word, we're going to work on people in the Senate, and that's where the bills come together and so on and so forth. So I said, okay, I'll do it. Now what happens is, there were 28 members of the Republican Assembly, and I was caucus chairman, and I was second in command of one of our little group there, 28. And I knew that, and said, if I vote for this, I'll be the only Republican voting for this tax. And I'm probably going to get a problem for everybody else. And so sure enough, I told our leader, Connie, I said, I'm going to vote for this. And tax reform to be close. It makes sense. I'm going to do this. So you check to see if that one. So sure enough, when the vote came up, I voted for it as one Republican. The next day, the rest of the caucus said, we got to get Brian out of here. He can't be a caucus chairman. Vote for it now. And so, right before our meeting, I resigned. Just to get yeah, I mean, you could. You can't take down. I just resigned. Anyway, so I was basically talking to Sharon for that vote. You know what? I'll do it again. I would do it again because the point is, we have to govern. You can't stand in your corner and say, no, I'm not going to move forward. I'm not going to move forward because everybody on side and nothing gets done. You have to rationally look at it and say, this makes sense for the good of the whole. For the good of California, this moves the ball forward. People are that important. Regulatory relief, there's other bills in there. It's that important for businesses to expand, to employ more people, to help in manufacturing back to California. To me, that was important enough to do that. So I did. The deal fell apart. What does that mean? In the sense the deal fell apart, actually, they couldn't get the, and I do consider Republicans that worked for the senators that don't wait, this thing's not going to go through as is unless they have decent regulatory reform. And to be honest with you, the people on the left, the Democrats wouldn't do it. They would not do decent reform. It was that, they were that much anti-fixing this law that they killed us, and that was the end of the deal. So I use that example just to say, folks, we have to somehow learn to say we've got to move the ball forward. We've got to look at something and say, this makes sense for the betterment of the state and do it. We still have our partisan viewpoints, I still do, and we can still argue like crazy, but at some point in time, we've got to have some type of deal like that. Or California, I'm pregnant. I got kids, I got 7 kids in America. I like to joke that my wife and I have 7 kids, some we like them, some we don't like, but we treat them all equally. But I'm worried, California is not the state that I grew up in. We don't have those opportunities. We have a lot more people coming into our state now. And that doesn't bother me. What bothers me is they're staying for us. Because we've lost that ladder of success. See those middle-class jobs, people that work hard, can earn a living better and better by working hard and doing longer. Those jobs are leaving California. So with that, let me touch on a couple other quick subjects really quickly. We won't get into any questions and so forth that you want to talk about. I mentioned crime. Crime is an issue out here. I read the papers, I do what's going on in communities. You have concerns here. And that gets back to the environment and the jobs, because if you don't have the tax revenue coming in, we can't pay your expenses. That's how we live. That's how the government lives by tax revenue. We have to increase better jobs and have a better police force, have more police on the street. And I do believe more police on the street work. And we just, Chief Brown came to me about a month ago and he said, Brian, here's an idea that if we get the California Highway Patrol, PHP to patrol Florida Avenue, we think crime will go down. We lost basically, I can't remember, about 8 or 9, maybe got 8 or 9 patrol officers down to 1 or something like that. Yeah. So I said, that's a great idea. If I wrote a letter to the CHP, and they approved it. They said, yes, we will help the cost-sharing agreement. So they have patrols now in Florida. I just talked to the area commander today, met with him, Gregory Peck, right? And he said, Brian, he wouldn't believe the first 2 weeks we go to about 1,000 cases. Because they're out there, of course, a lot, everything, people find out, so he said, you know what, we're having trouble writing tickets now. Because the crime is going down. There's that theory of broken windows, where they say, if people see that you're enforcing the law on anything, little things and so on, that does drive the crime away. Because if they see you looking the other way at little things, that increases crime. I do believe it, and that's happening now. I think it's a good start. There's still obviously, I think, more work to do, but I think it's been good for Emmett. And once again, I'm making the time to say, folks, we've got to create jobs in the base here. You've got to create jobs and get that revenue and make government function well. And then what was the last part? Government bureaucracy. This will get one of the bills that I have. I'm going to talk to some of the bills. I forgot to mention. The first bill I introduced when I got elected to the Assembly was to limit the number of bills we could introduce. The argument is we're going to have 2,000 bills here. It's too many. So I myself have limited the number of bills. You can introduce 40. I limit my bills are limited to 30. So I limit myself and I say, come on, 30 bills is still a lot. You really don't need that many. But anyways, I do that just to say that's kind of my nature is I'm fairly conservative in that way. Also, by the way, when I got to the Assembly, There's a nice little thing to go through orientation where they tell you how to get something in and you do this and that and the other. And at the end of that, they say, oh, here's your free car. You get a free car. And I said, you know what? This is in the recession of 09, the bond was going out. I said, probably don't get a new car. I had a guy that, 8-year-old or 6-year-old that's on Yukon, 200,000 miles on that car, didn't need a new car. And I said that just to say, folks, we have to, if you're going to be a government and we like that, I think I did my part, which is great. And to set it up, I also cut my pay. We were going to cut the employees' pay by about 15 to 20%. And I said, wait a minute, I cut mine first, and then I can go up and honestly vote to cut their pay because we've done it first. So I did that to say, I'm conservative, I'm frugal with your tax dollars, I want to be, but also I understand there's another side, there's Democrats, and we have to learn to somehow find that process to move forward. So I think about bureaucracy. So the bureaucracy, this is my bill, I focused on this. We have to limit the size of our bureaucracy. That means that we need government, absolutely, but we need streamlined, efficient government. And so I did a little research as I was writing this bill. You know the first person to talk about the problems with bureaucracy? Okay, I'll just say Confucius. And that goes back thousands of years. And the philosopher, Chinese philosopher Confucius talks about the bureaucracy in the army, identifying this overlapping jurisdiction and kind of waste of manpower and so on. And then there's a gentleman in the Roman Empire, I wrote his name, oh, chief, I forgot. So his name is not pronounced Lactantius. He talked about the bureaucracy, the administrative layers had doubled in a very short period of time. He said something like a translation that there's more people now, using tax dollars than paying them. This is back during the Roman Empire. But they identified the cause of bureaucracy. And it's not evil, it's not something intense, it's just how it happens. By nature, bureaucracies grow. And they get efficient. And I remember I worked in this manufacturing plant back almost 30 years ago, I think, called U.S. Tires. They do that equipment. It's great company. And I worked in quality control. And I remember this guy came in, there's about 10 of us in there, and his job was to come in and figure out whose job we're going to get rid of. Their assumption was there's too much fat in this company, they're going to cut it. So he said, I can't remember, 5 a week. And he made his reports to me, and I didn't see it, but next I know 2 people were gone. And they also changed our processes for what we're doing because he came in, and that's what private companies do. They figure out, you know what, things build up after all, you have to turn them back, you have to find those efficiencies and that's down. In government, you don't do a lot of that. You have better government locally, they'll say your local government is much more efficient. But the further away you get Sacramento, Washington, it gets more inefficient. This is how it is. There's less accountability. If you can come here and complain to your council members, say, here, I did this, I know what you're doing there, because you're like getting on a plane going to Sacramento and Washington, D.C. So it's incumbent on us, legislators, we have to trim back and find that more efficient bureaucracy. I'm not talking about penny services, just find those efficiencies. So my bill says we have a model that every state agency sunsets every 10 years unless it's reauthorized. And reauthorized by a group of auditors that are going to be appointed. They're outside the Capitol, not legislators, a group of auditors. And every year an agency comes before that group, and they do a very intensive forensic audit. They go through this agency and say, well, do you really need to do this, that way, or this, that? Or by the way, we audited the other agency last year, you guys seem to do the same job here. Let's pick one of the others, but not 2 of them doing the same job. And that's what happens. You have these overlapping bureaucracies that are just gateways to money. And this is not a new idea. Other states have done this. I think 11 other states have done this. An average cost savings for every, this will take a few $1 million, maybe $10 million to set up. But in these other states, every dollar that they spend in settling commissions, it saves about $11 in taxpayer money. In the state of Texas, the kind of model we're using, every dollar they spend on saves $20 by doing that. It just cleans it up. And that's our obligation is to be efficient as we possibly can with taxpayer dollars. So I'm hoping you all support that. And write me a letter saying you support the legislation and confidence back there, because I really think We have very tough decisions, whether or not we cut services, whether or not we raise taxes. Those are other arguments, but first, we should all agree, let's have the most efficient agency that we possibly can, and then go from there. So with that, if I can just open it up to any questions or comments or whatever you like, hold on, just go home right now. I don't want to get silly.
I'm a father of three, my wife, and they're in elementary school. And how come this new law about transgender and about using the classrooms? Maybe 12, 66. My whole point is we have like what, 21% that is claiming to be transgender. We have a massive majority of children that, through being natural, they have to use the same restrooms. Where is our protection? I understand that people have a different perception of how they are. Yeah, okay, they believe they might be a girl or a boy and they have to use this. But at what point do we draw a line, or are we going to make a restroom for just them? Because if my daughter is in the restroom and a male comes in, what protects her? As the same as if I went to a gym class and I decided to go into women's, I get charged and taken to jail. But what protects the majority? I don't understand how that even came about, but who do we have to protect us?
First of all, I voted against that bill.
Boy, man.
But one of the reasons, though, was because it really impedes on local control, because school districts have very good policies. I think LA Unified has been doing this for 10 years.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know if the state needs to come in and really intrude on the local school district's decisions there and how they're, because my guess is they're given unique circumstances in different areas. And so I was hesitant to say that they should come in and make this law when that school district has it, their elected board, their school board is elected by their constituents, and everybody has the right to go to the school board meeting. Once again, they're local, you can drive down there and show up and say,
right.
I want you to do this, that, or the other. And that's usually, in my philosophy, the better type of government if you can have those decisions made locally, not at the state level.
But at the same time, how could it get over there, and how does a philosophy, not philosophy, almost a fetish, override national?
So, I can't argue that.
So, there's...
My question is, is there any information online? So I tried to look at this. I just heard about this week, so I'm not very prepared on any of those things. I went to websites, different websites, not able to look any documents, all the links.
You know, it's pretty new in the sense that may not, I don't know how much they disseminate out there to make like this is relatively new law.
Yeah.
So, but my staff, Mark Trojan, Sarah, Alan, they all work for me, the officers out here, they will help me. So it's awesome. Grab one of them, I'll get it out, like, and help you out, or grab it or whatever, absolutely.
Yes, that is a certain kind of advantage. What we can do about it, because then the non-profit organization, they will lose their non-profit status.
Yeah, that's it.
85,
That's what happens, yes, on your requirements.
Oh, this is the
Yeah, no, that's a different, different bill than you
Then
were
you
talking
were
about,
talking
yeah.
Well, this is a horrible thing to take that, this excuse of women in school, and then I think I'm a girl, so they go in, they're taking their clothes, it's terrible. And just in culture, I mean, you can't get always on the field. That never ends, so.
Yeah. Yes, Joe. And I'm sorry, because you were talking, it kind of makes it an adventure. There's a tax on them to about nonprofits and school for all. Yes, Joe.
Is there any chance that would be challenged in the court?
I think it is.
Because that's on the foundation,
Right.
something like civic justice, institute.
I heard them on NPR the other day, on interview, and I think they are. at the risk of taking the other side to that, you know, we always want to protect children of all types. You know, so we want to be cognizant and aware that, you know, kids may be going through other issues. You know, I'm not a biology professor, and so there's issues that we should all be. I think it's always healthy to be tolerant and to accept the fact some people may be different. But I think the point that you made, though, there's also the right to the privacy issue that people have, and it's that's where we should try to thread that needle, and that's why I go back to local elected bodies have the ability to make those. Okay, well,
the board would be where we would address our concerns.
It would have been, and now.
Right, that's why I would think, I'm not, you know, like I said, Easter, I'm not about that, but at the same time, impose that bill, and then give the funding to build their risk. Well, you know, that's pretty, I mean, the only way out is to get out of it.
I response to that. Yes, sir.
Could they look that up on the grad database or website? Specific justice. I know there could be somewhere this young family could go on the grad specific justice and look it up and complain against he's the person that's
I'll please come and get their card and we'll follow up to find out how to get it, whatever.
Assembly member, on the same line, when we as the electorate passed Proposition 8, and then our governor and our state, Kamala Harris, state attorney, refused to go and present that case at the Supreme Court, what do we do there? I mean, there's no more avenues. How would you address that?
That's actually a very, very interesting point the gentleman made, is that I think that the Attorney General has an obligation to defend that's like a public defender must defend that person if they think that person is completely guilty or not or relevant. They have a duty to protect that person and have a fair trial for it. And I think that's what unfortunately happened in California, where you didn't get a fair trial defense, right. The state didn't even defend their own proposition. And so it was truly an anomaly of our process, of our democracy, our initiative proposition. So, yeah, I don't know what.
And how can you help us there? I mean, is there a possibility for anything?
People talked about having some type of, I guess, law that says the Attorney General must defend any proposition that is passed. And that's, I think that would make sense, because once again, if the people vote for it, you have to have your lawyer, of course, because maybe it is unconstitutional. Maybe Prop 8 should be overturned. Maybe that's the right decision. But the point is, people can stay in court if the lawyer from California doesn't show up and argue the case. And because why would it not get a day in court? Because the Supreme Court said that the people defending Prop 8 did not have standing in the court. They did not come and argue the case because you're irrelevant to it. This is the job of the California Attorney General basically to do it. You do not have standing, so they said, we're not hearing the case. And so it was just, anyway. What else? Come on, Dan. Yes, sir.
Change things a little bit. I know there are these programs and I'm very concerned with the ridiculous, Baker's dozen laws that have gone through, banning all kinds of things and making all kinds of ridiculous changes to the laws that are already influenced in California. It's completely ridiculous. So I know that's not your staff. You didn't vote for any of those, so thank you. But at this point now, is there anything you can recommend, or anything that you could introduce, or I know the way the legislature is introducing the program.
Well, we already have some of the restrictive laws in the nation state government for young people. So, for you guys, that's why I voted against my one stop.
Along with that, let's just talk us like they took Assembly Bill 187, which is the animal tax, and moved and put it in appropriations to hide it from us so we don't know. But how can we get some transparency to find out when they are violating their Second Amendment rights, which additional testing, even with the Tenth Amendment process, how can we get that out so we know the transparency when they're trying to grab our guns, grab our ammo, and prevent us from defending ourselves for our Second Amendment rights?
Yeah, that was that information brought to the public.
Yeah, that might be a long vetting process of the Sacramento legislature. There's, when you say to put into appropriations, what they do, and this is interesting, when you pass a bill, you have policy committees, or a bill goes to policy committee, and they pass out of that committee. But what they do, just about every bill, they say, well, that has to go to the appropriation committee, because that has to have money appropriated to implement it, even though it may be some insignificant amount. And it's a way that they silently kill bills that they don't want. They don't want to pass, or they don't need members to vote on it. You can die out of death. You can vote it out of policy committee, and then it goes to the appropriation committee, and it literally just never comes back up. It dies silently there sometimes. And so, yeah, I don't recall exactly, I'll take the word for it, it's in the appropriation committee, that maybe they're fine, that bill's going to die. So it's a lot of times, just to be completely upfront, and Democrats would argue the other side, that they will use that to avoid a moral that they don't want members to, if they have to buy membership on it, they can avoid that by just letting it die in appropriation.
And I also understand we're outnumbered by the liberals in here versus the conservative Republicans.
California's a Democratic state, and it's a Democrat-dominated legislature.
So if you're talking about accountability earlier, the oath of office were that hold the Constitution of the United States, and they are not doing it. So we need somebody to stand up and hold them accountable for their oath of office.
I would hope, well, my children would be both Republican, but I mean, they should not be flippant about it. Yes, that is a Democratic legislature.
Well, I don't understand, with the oath of office, we all touch the same thing, with the right of resistance. And by swearing to that oath, and then violating by actions like that, should bring them up in front of the ethics committee. And Republicans, Democrats, whoever it is that does not support the Second Amendment should be flat-fired.
They got to have elections.
May I say something to the NRA is asking every gentleman in the state of California to call Governor Brown and ask them to please veto these bills. So please do. I'm an NRA student, and I know it's been in the town, but once these bills get passed, the NRA is going to come in, go to court, start suing. We spent over $65 million the last 2 years doing just that in various states in the United States. But if it's Thursday, the NRA on Monday, just like phone calls. You're going to bring it, if you get overwhelmed, you go back in, leave them with you.
And I agree with you. I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. I agree with you that the great part of whether it's the NRA or the Sheriff's or whatever it might be is just what you just mentioned, participating in the government. We are blessed with this democracy. We are blessed with democracy where your votes, your phone calls, it actually work. It actually, not all the time, it's not perfect, but we are, once again, a republic or a representative democracy where every individual votes and elects that person or can call petition their government. That's very, very important. That separates us from a lot of other countries. So I'm glad the NRA is there. I'm glad the groups on the left are there. I'm glad all these groups are there. It shows that people are interested in participating in their government, and that's what makes this work. Without that, it doesn't work.
Write letters, email, fax, make phone calls, don't let them get by with it. It's all up to you.
I don't know that you know.
Well, yes, ma'am. Right there, no, yes.
My name is Anna. I was in China, and something that I would like to advocate for ties into what we talked about, environment and jobs and solar energy. And so I've been learning about this with my husband at my project called Good Alternatives, and they provide, I think it's before, but they provide solar systems for low-income families that is highly subsidized cost, so they can no cost at all. surprising, but I feel like this program is actually very underutilized. And not just this program, but just solar energy